If you told a man he had only 1 week left to live, what do you think he'd do? What would you do? Lash out? Pray? Grieve? Probably. You are human, after all. You're just like the rest of us, right? Fragile. We don't like to think about how breakable we are, to be reminded of our own mortality. And yet every day, one of us dies. One of us loses somebody. Maybe they were someone important. Somebody who really mattered. Maybe they were someone's whole world. They come and they go and we never even knew them. That's Earth for you? That's life? But does it have to be? What if the man doomed to death were not a man at all, but a god? What if he could do anything, be anywhere? What if he could fly? The man's name is Norn Rad. The god's called the Silver Surfer. He's done great things. But now, there's only time enough left for one more, a Requiem. Today at Ideas Like Clockwork, join me as I explore the tantalizing, inspiring, and profound story of Silver Surfer Requiem, as we learn what it really means to transcend melancholy. The universe is death and poetry, rebirth and love, beauty and war. The Silver Surfer knows this. The universe has proved it to him. We live and we die in fire, knowing that when we die, we are reborn in the minds and spirits of those who will follow the path we have lit for them across the ages, the path that one day calls all of us home at the dying of the light. This is the thesis statement of J. Michael Straczynski's Silver Surfer Requiem. It's the thoughts of a character feeling grief and awe and all the emotions in between. It's what drives him back, not to his home world, but to the land upon which he'd found companionship, where he'd fought against hate for peace and for love. Earth. There he seeks out the Baxter Building, home of some of his oldest friends, the Fantastic Four. There, the brilliant Reed Richards hears out his plight. The surfer tells them the news which causes Susan Storm to cry as she never had before. Reed Richards, however, tested and retested the results. Again and again, he could be called nothing if not thorough, save perhaps obsessive. But even so, Reed Richards must admit, they can't save him. Not the tests, nor the theories, and Norn knows it. The man looks out the window and realizes that he was never scared for himself, for the man who should have died long ago, but for the god who had saved so many, who feared that humanity would not survive without him, who, once upon a time, had sacrificed his own body to save the lives of his world, to wander the galaxies forevermore, to find peace, salvation, beauty, and to destroy it. But Earth had been different. On Earth, the god had been a hero. On Earth, he had found purpose. He has lived his life, striving after that purpose, regretting nothing along the way. And now, he'd reached the finish line. That's the beauty of life, isn't it? That one day, it all ends. That we go in peace and love, looking back upon the bounty of a life well lived. That we did something important, something that mattered. And that now we can end the journey with a smile. I mean, I'd hope so. But no one really knows what it feels like to be at the end, do they? All the Silver Surfer knows as he looks down that window upon the vast lands which men call Earth, is that he has lived as he should, and yet somehow, for some reason, he's left wanting. So the surfer chooses to do what he does best. One last journey amongst the stars, one last voyage, so that he might say goodbye to everything. One last adventure as the god, before his shiny exterior crumbles to dust, and all that remains is a man far past his prime. Thus, what he feels as he waves goodbye, as he learns the truth, is equal parts grief and hope. He feels not as men do, for he has spent far too much time amongst the stars to be called a man. I understand that on Earth there are insects, monarch butterflies, that often live only 2 weeks. To them, 2 weeks is a generation. So if I have but a month, then I have 2 generations of life yet ahead of me. I am blessed, Richards. I am blessed. The Silver Surfer's every sentence is a verse of poetry. He's fragile, and yet within him lies a strength like no other, that of a perspective other men cannot possibly comprehend. For the man is dying, and yet the god still lives. Now, if, God forbid, it had been any of us, I doubt we'd suffer through the cruelty of imminent death with that much grace, that much hope. Maybe we're better for that. Maybe that's us acting as we should. And yet, that resilience, that unbreakable resolve, it gives us something to strive for, to aspire to one day face death not as we so often do, with despair and tears and anger and regret, but with composure. Because when faced with certain death, the Silver Surfer doesn't break down. He doesn't cry, doesn't falter, even for an instant. Why? Because he knows in his heart of hearts that he's a good man who has led a good life. Still, even the good men can die. The leaders of good lives must die if they are to ever truly be called alive. The Surfer knows this, and in his knowing, he moves to fulfill himself in the only way he can, to move beyond melancholy, to transcend grief, to help his fellow man, to give the world, which is home to so much life, one last gift. This character is beautiful, and yet he's one often overlooked in modern pop culture. People know who the character of Spider-Man is at its core, what makes him special. They know who Iron Man is, and Captain America, and all the rest. But as for who the Silver Surfer is, he's unique in that I can't honestly say that I could ask anyone on the street if the Silver Surfer is a man or a god, and they'd be able to give me the right answer. The answer that Norrin Rad was a man who had a heart so big that he sacrificed his humanity, his freedom, to embody the powers of a god. He's a man, yes, but from the outside looking in, no one would be able to tell. Looking at him, we see a being beyond imperfection. When Stan Lee launched the character's first comic series back in 1968, he did so to comment on the imperfections of humanity. The Silver Surfer was more than a hero, more than an inspiration, more even than a legend. He was a movement. Stan Lee wrote the Surfer as someone who cared so much that when he saw us on this beautiful planet, a planet just like the one he had been forced to give up, it hurt him so very deeply. All he wanted with all his heart was for the fighting, the wars to stop, for us to see what a beautiful planet we had to live on and appreciate it like we should, like he did. He wanted us to be better. But at the end of these stories, human nature wouldn't suddenly switch up and change for the better. Our world leaders wouldn't just stop their wars and their greed and their hatred and think, wait a minute, this guy has a point. No, they'd go back to doing what they'd always done and think little of it. And every time this happened, the Surfer's heart broke a little, and from his heartbreak, he grew furious, not at us, but for us. Which is to say, he pitied us. It maddened him that we could never see the absolute miracle, the glimmering, pure beauty of what we have, like he could. That we could never appreciate it like he longed for us to. And many issues would end with him blasting off into the stars and lamenting those same eternal truths. That humanity was a race of madmen, that he could never understand us, never be like us, and yet he never stopped believing in us, believing that we were worth it. Even after we hunted and hounded him, after we hurt him so much, the man's heart was so big that even still, he held out hope for us. He forgave us. That was not the Surfer's doing. It was not the power cosmic that gave Norrin Rad this immense kindness, this hope, this beautiful, poetic perspective on life. That was the man that had always been the man, and that will always be the man until his journey comes to an end. I remember reading those stories and thinking, we can do better. About how I wanted us to be better. And yet he proved it over and over again. He practically shouted it out through the heavens time and time again. Why must human beings hurt and kill their own kind in their insane lust for greed? It is madness, is it not? We could have had everything. We could have had paradise. Were we not the way that we were, that we still are? But that's human nature, isn't it? And there's no changing that. And so, lesson after lesson went ignored, and if not ignored, scorned, hated. And time after time, the Surfer still had patience for us. It seemed to be the patience of a god. but it never was. Not really. It was always just a man. A silver-clad, melancholic man who grieved the loss of his life, of his world, by trying desperately to help us savor ours. Will there ever be an end to their insane fanaticism? The surfer wondered as cannon fire burst all around him. He never found his answer. Why do they turn to violence in the name of the one they worship? Have they so soon forgotten that the greatest power is love? He couldn't understand us. They think me defenseless because I do not strike back, but I dare not unleash my power cosmic against them. They are not evil, merely unthinking, and truly they know not what they do. But he understood one thing. Humanity is not an inherently vicious species. We do not seek to kill and maim without reason. And yet that is what we do. That is the result of our actions. An endless cycle of waste and carnage. The immense heart, the boundless courage it must take to look at us from the outside and to understand that terrible, stinging fact that we know not what we do. It boggles the mind. It also saddens me. But without this melancholy surrounding the surfer's every movement, his every thought, we would not have a starting point. Without it, without us, he would have nothing to transcend. That's who the Silver Surfer is to me. His whole character, his journey, is an exercise in one thing and one thing only, striving to transcend melancholy. I believe this to be the core of the character, his philosophy. These lines which carry so much weight, so much sorrow, and yet so much humanity. Death comes to us all. I fear it not. Stoicism and melancholy are baked into his very essence, as the capacity for hate and greed are baked into ours. If it be mad to stand for the weak and the misguided, then such is my choice, rather than cold and soulless sanity. His poetic notions of love and hate, and how he somehow always knew which side he'd rather fight for. That he would always choose to wallow in love and empathy and hope, rather than bathe in the hand of the grief and sorrow and hurt which the universe so ferociously dealt him. If life is the most precious gift of all, then is not its loss a matter of monumental consequence? But it is because he is human that he understands the more important things. No, you are wrong. You must place no man above another. Through these stories, the Silver Surfer demonstrates that he does live with melancholy, with grief and sorrow, just as he lives with hope and beauty. As long as he's been the surfer, it was never truly his goal to transcend his melancholy, but to instead leave the lives of humanity forever altered, to fix us so that we may at last wake up in celebration of the unparalleled beauty of the paradise we share. What he doesn't know is that they are one and the same. He cannot transcend his melancholy without leaving himself satisfied, without acknowledging to himself that the world will be in good hands without him. The spark of divinity is in all, or else in none. He genuinely believes in the principles which so many humans claim to live by, but cannot themselves believe in wholeheartedly. Such is doubt and error and sin. Such is that which leads them to what the surfer calls madness, and what drags the surfer back down amongst them to mortality, trapped in this melancholic cocoon which man calls simple idealism and which the Silver Surfer calls doing what's right. It is madness. They thirst for leadership as a child thirsts for mother's milk. Surely this is why they so often fall prey to tyrants and despots. Why cannot they realize that the truest faith is faith in oneself? And with that, understanding the core essence of this beautifully tragic character, let me pull us back to Requiem, as the Silver Surfer surfs silently throughout the streets of New York, just observing and acting on his observations, cautiously considering what he might do to alleviate his melancholy, to give to mankind such that it may see the world as he does. It's an impossible task. We hate and we battle. We war and we kill. That hasn't changed. Even now. The Silver Surfer finds a target upon whom he may take out his frustration, his righteous anger towards a humanity he fear will never be better, be all that he sees that we can be, and his innate concern, deep down, that he will die feeling the stinging melancholy of failure, and not the glorious triumph of hope. As Spider-Man looks upon him, he makes it sound so simple, so beautifully natural. I was in the area. The lives of innocents were at stake, so I did what I could. And now, I must go. Like it was the only thing he could do. And, to him, it was. Yet, despite this, the Surfer has not been able to rid himself of his melancholy. Thus, he accepts help. In a beautiful moment of honesty, the god relays his concerns to Peter Parker, that he must leave Earth, and yet, once he leaves, he shall not return. And for all the time he's spent on Earth, for all the beautiful sights he's experienced, all the peace he's found in this paradise we call a world, he has always been confused by humanity's collective brutality, of conflict, of war, and, like any benevolent being, wishes to see it ended. You are a race of madmen, the Surfer tells Peter. He keeps thinking that there has to be one last gift he can give them, that there has to be something, some remedy, some miracle cure to all the world's problems. And yet, even with all his power, he sees no answers. He could destroy the evil governments of the world, and yet such violence would only beget more violence. He could solve poverty with treasures from all across the galaxy, and yet it would ultimately produce the opposite effect as intended, plunging the world into a dark age unlike any the world has ever faced. He could strand all the world's leaders in a desert and force them to work out a way to have peace on this beautiful land which we all share, and promise to not provide for them food and water, to not let them out until they have come up with an answer. Unfortunately, humanity does not solve problems through talks, or reason, or love, but through war, and violence, and conflict, the very devils that the Surfer feels so compelled to exercise. Even with all the Surfer's power, it's never worked. And the most torturous part of this scene is that deep down, both these beautifully moral characters know it. How corrupt a species are we that, as Spider-Man remarks, we cannot save ourselves because we cannot change who we are? There's no answer. There never was. If there's one thing the Silver Surfer has learned through his journeys on Earth, it's that mankind has done far too much damage for any solution to be so simple. And so, lacking any solution, Peter Parker does what he does best. He deflects. Why a board? He asks. And the Surfer's answer is simple poetry. Imagine standing in the limitless darkness between the stars, with nothing between you and the universe. The terrible, majestic beauty all around you, thus freed even once. Would you ever wish to surround yourself with a shell again, and deny yourself that beauty? The Surfer offers Peter the chance, to which, of course, he declines, choosing to instead bring the woman which means more to him than anyone else. His wife, Mary Jane. It's her birthday today. Peter wanted to give her the world. Instead, she gets the universe. And this page, my God, this page is magic, pure and simple. She says it best herself. She was free. The beauty of the scene cuts both ways, its blade slicing far past the Surfer's impenetrable skin and into the heart within as he remembers the one true love whom he left behind, his Shallabal. And he knows he must now say goodbye to Peter, to Mary Jane, and to the Earth. But before Peter swings away, he tells the Surfer one more thing. He finally has an answer for him. This puzzled me greatly, as I myself couldn't fathom an answer to the Surfer's question. I had come to the same conclusions that Peter had, that for each monumental outcome, due to the ever-depressing reality of human nature, that the side effects would topple the great good this immense power could do. That, as I said earlier, there was no solution. And then the truth is revealed. Peter tells him that people can't change what they are until and unless they understand what they can be, unless they know it and feel it in their hearts. He tells him that if he extends his great power cosmic to the entire world, a gift to each and every man, woman, and child on this wonderful planet, let them see the world as he sees it, as had been his mission for decade upon decades. The source of his constant frustration, his righteous fury, and his small joys, as whole and as beautiful, and with the simple magical promise that peace will hold it all together. Then for just one small moment, it would all change. Thus, the Silver Surfer unleashed his final gift to the planet Earth in a great maelstrom of lightning, presenting to us one of the most beautiful scenes in comics. All across the world, across all walks of life, from torture camps to suffering villages to rich men who love only greed and whose lives are enriched only through sin, the man called Norrin Radd, just for one moment, taught them all, murderers and thieves, kings and beggars, what it means to be human once again, what it means to be at peace, and to be free. It was just 5 minutes. But as J. Michael Straczynski puts it, whole worlds have turned on even briefer moments. And just like that, as his body trembles and his limits shatter, the surfer realizes with the slightest of smiles on his face that he has done what he had always so desperately desired for mankind. He had brought us peace. And that beautiful, interchangeable triumph brings him the purest form of solace. Within that outpouring of emotions, which at this point causes me to imagine I'm but one of those millions granted new light and new life, and who now understands what it means to truly be alive, Peter Parker, the best of us, feels it too, and unmasks. He stands before Norrin Radd for the first time, man to man, brother to brother, and speaks 2 words: thank you. And with that, the Silver Surfer shoots off and disappears into the stars. This is the moment that the Silver Surfer transcends melancholy, not only in his actions and in his words, but in the very feelings this book emits across us all. It is not melancholy which I feel seeing this moment. It is hope, and it's joy. And it's in eliciting that response that the Silver Surfer finally wins. He gave us the gift that he has always known. He has given us something to strive for, something to live up to. Although a man, not a god, and not an entirely complex man, a simple man with simple ideas. For those 5 minutes, and for eternity onwards, the world will know one simple fact: that he is the best of us, and that he is now gone, blasting farther and farther away from everything we are, everything he helped us to be, and towards everything he had been. He travels through beauty after beauty in one final push to go home. And when he hears the words he's wanted to hear for so very long, not as the Silver Surfer, but as himself, as Norrin Radd, together the sun humbles them. They worry for the man whose time has come to an end, but the surfer is beyond such feelings as grief. He has more important things on his mind. If you believe I came all this way just to die, then you do not understand, he tells her. I came also to know that you live, to see you alive, so that I may carry that vision across me when the darkness comes. You see, the Silver Surfer has never pretended to fear his inevitable death. The melancholy which he has embodied for so long is nothing more than a worry for a future without him. He now knows that to truly transcend the melancholy of his inner being, he must do what he can for everyone, everything, for which he cares so deeply. He loves the universe, and yet he must now say goodbye. He loves the planets and the stars above him, and yet soon they will be a distant memory, and even that, in a day's time, shall fade. He loves the people, these warring, angry people, for the beauty in which he knows he had been able to touch. He loves the icebergs and the oceans, the forests and the trees, the deserts and the plains. He loves his Shalabal. So, How do you transcend melancholy? The Silver Surfer finally has an answer. It's simple. It's so very simple. It's joy. When we die, we take comfort in knowing that those we love will continue for as many tomorrows as the universe can give us. It is a joy. And Norrin Radd regrets nothing because every moment he lived, every sight he saw, every moment he begged and pleaded for peace, for us to finally be better, had been spent living for her and for his people. She begs him to live, and he wants to more than anything else in the world. Yet reality has always had its say in Norrin Radd's life. His life hasn't been one of his choosing for many long years, but it has been an adventure, and it always will be. That is what the people in white robes celebrate. A voyage passed down for generations after generations. They came to say goodbye. After so many years of the Silver Surfer being defined by his losses, of his grief, and of his pain, of being separated from the object of his desire, of being defined by his melancholy, this scene is something special, not only because he is at last at peace, but that he is giving his people that which he'd always meant to, dreams and love and hope. They come to him in sorrow and in awe, but they leave with something far greater. They called it the Mark of Norrin. That it was not named after the Silver Surfer feels significant somehow. It's his people's recognition that it was always the man who did the good things, who brought peace into the world, and not the power that he'd been granted. Whenever there was violence or hatred, jealousy or greed, the Mark would turn colors to remind them of the man called Norrin Radd, who had sacrificed everything for them. It was not always enough, but it was enough most of the time. If any man, any living creature, can claim a greater legacy in death than that, let him come forth. That line has stayed with me. It is, in my estimation, the perfect resolution to end this story off. A story which ended as it began, with poetry. The people didn't stop coming, and Norrin Radd never stopped listening. For one last time, things felt as they had. Norrin Radd had finally transcended melancholy. For the first time, and the last, he was happy. He had hope, not only for himself, but for the future, for eons and eons to come. He had faith in us, that we'd be alright. But then he screams out in terror, for it's the very being which took everything from him the first time, who threatened to kill them all, to destroy their planet, to tear down everything they've built in one horrifying instant. It was Galactus. And this time, Norrin Radd wasn't strong enough to save them. After all, what can a dying man sacrifice for his people that he has not already given up? Even still, scarred as he may be, bones creaking, silver cracking, Norrin Radd stands. He stands to face him, because that's what a hero does. But even his greatest enemy is, on this day, not here to kill, maim, or destroy. On this day, Galactus bears no ill will towards man. He comes only in love for his herald, for the man who had taught him, insatiable as his hunger will always be, that life is sacred, and that it matters more than he could possibly understand. Galactus offers him life, and yet Norrin Radd rejects it, for this is his time. He has made peace, and he stares death head on, with a smile, with love, with grace, and above all, with hope. He only asks his former master one thing: let them live. And Galactus agrees. He says, I would never allow anyone to harm the world that was the heart and soul of the most honorable being I have ever known. Let go the burden of the flesh, Norrin, and be at peace. And with those final, majestic words that embrace the impact of everything Norrin Radd has accomplished throughout his great adventure of life, the Silver Surfer smiles in the majestic calm of blinding light and ascends into its warmth one last time. I'm flying, Shallabal. Do you see me? I'm flying. I'm flying. I'm A being who devoured planets, killed billions and billions with every meal, uncaring, unsympathetic, was suddenly standing with the people of a planet he once tried to annihilate, in humble remembrance. That is how great of a character the Silver Surfer was. He had broken down barriers no man could hope to even reach. He had changed the way things are in this universe. Let that sink in. Galactus, devourer of planets, now had one place in the universe, upon which he was forever welcome. And after these days of silence passed, Shalabal had one final request for her true love. A request that sent Galactus's mighty ship spiraling up to the stars. A request that created a grand explosion of light, so profoundly bright that for one moment in time, the entire universe could not help but notice its shine and be in awe of it. When he shall die, take him and cut him into little stars, and he shall make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night, and pay no worship to the garish sun. Norrin Radd died as he lived, in poetry. And a watcher from afar knows only this. His name was Norrin Radd. That his actions saved the lives of billions. That he was a friend, and that he shall be missed. Melancholy. It permeates the character's very essence, but melancholy is not purely something we feel in the moment that we can spur on or draw out of others, like anger or jealousy or even laughter. After all, that's what makes it beautiful. When we feel melancholy, what we're feeling isn't sadness, it's inevitability. It's knowing what life really means, that someday we will die, that our time is limited and it becomes beautiful for those limitations. It's not a bad thing to feel, rather, it's important. But at some point, someday, we may feel the need to surpass it, to rise above it, to feel not the somber touch of sadness, but the warmth of hope. Better, I think, to wallow in the light of joy, of hope, than in that of sadness. But in the end, what did this story teach us? What did it all mean? Well, we can rise above melancholy and reach hope by loving that which we despise, by loving everything in this world, and by making peace with this love, even as the shadow of death may very well be looming over us all. By abandoning our petty hatreds and our biases, to love everyone and everything, to hope that others can live as we long to wish everyone in this universe peace, not momentarily, but eternally. We hope that we can stride towards the goal that stories like this give us, that we can live and die with no regrets, that we can transcend, and that we can fly high, and shout out into the heavens. Look at me. I'm flying. This, throughout all of his stories, throughout his grand life, was the core of the Silver Surfer. Even in his final moments, as his body crackles in a star which illuminates the heavens, the man called Norrin Radd teaches us all how to transcend melancholy, how to hope again, and above all, how to live. I will end on one of the Silver Surfer's many monologues, throughout which the surfer's heart echoes, and his eternal kindness, the untold depths of his hope for us, may display his undying being. I ride my board. It matters not how far. It matters not how fast. I have no destination. I go where the winds of chance may carry me. I have known the heady exhalation of victory. I have known the gnawing pain of defeat. But I shall never cease searching for an oasis of sanity in this desert of madness that men call Earth. For the worst fate of all, amidst countless worlds and endless stars, is to be forever alone. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm back.